in on a beautiful Thursday after what was a very interesting week in sports, and one that is probably only going to get weirder as we move forward. Brad, how are we doing today?
Oh my God, we are great. I spent the weekend in Philly. That was exciting. The whole weekend.
The city you hate.
Oh my God, yeah.
Much as you hate their sports teams. You hate their sports teams.
So yeah, it's actually kind of funny, and I wanna kind of go over that real quick. It was actually kind of funny because I know I hate the team. The only team that Philly has that I don't care about, I think, really is the Flyers, actually. Yeah, because, I mean, the Flyers, right? Like, it's hard to hate teams that are bad. We've discussed that before in depth. But
unless they're like a team that has been so like what's a team that has been like the Patriots? I feel like there's a lot of people that are kind of like enjoying that the Patriots are bad because they hate it. But here's the thing: they didn't really hate the Patriots. They hated Tom Brady, so they really aren't. You know what? But it's something. It's along that lines of thinking.
One phenomenon that I've been obsessed with is how Tom Brady has gotten more fun, like, as he moved to Tampa Bay. Like, he's more fun now,
he's he's still like killer instinct.
Right.
But when he's off the field, he doesn't have to worry about Belichick and stuff. And like, there was a certain point, when he was in New England where that probably didn't apply anymore because he was, set 5-time Super Bowl champion.
So, Philly
he was untouchable.
Philly actually is a good city, so I want to put that out there. So I was actually in town when the Eagles were hosting the Chiefs. I didn't obviously go to the game. I went to see John Mulaney, comedian, great time. It was a good show.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, that's why. Did
he talk about all the shit, his rehab and shit?
Yeah, no, it was good. He didn't really mention like his divorce and stuff, but he did talk about.
No, he wouldn't.
He wasn't gonna go on. No, not on that route. No, he more of went into like his rehab and stuff like that. It was actually
what I figured.
It was actually a pretty good show. But I did the Philly was hosting the Chiefs, and so it was actually kind of interesting because there was a ton of people from like Kansas City that were in. Which again,
it's a rough place to go to a game, though. Philly is like the ones that you get batteries thrown at you.
So, have you ever been to Philadelphia?
No, I haven't.
So it's weird, right?
I've driven through it.
You know how if you go to Detroit, like you got all of our sports teams are like in the center of the city.
Now they're like literally all within like half a square mile.
Exactly. You got
you can
Detroit,
walk to
right
each
in Midtown.
one in the span of 15 minutes because Comerica Park, where the Tigers play, and Ford Field, where the Lions play, are literally like next door to each other. And then across the street, if you go across Woodward on the other side of 94, which again, one crosswalk and walk along Woodward Avenue, you have LCA. Like you can see each building from each other very closely.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's really nice.
A lot of
if you're going to a
cities
game
are built like that too. Like Cleveland, same way. Like all this, the most like the Cavs stadium, like it's in the middle of everything. Progressive Field is like kind of right in the middle. So the interesting part about Philly is that it's all away. So like you have like Philly, you got Center City where like everything's there. Center City was it's basically the like size of downtown Detroit, except Philly's like more massive. So it was just interesting because then you had like South Philly. The only time that we saw the stadiums like in plain view was on the freeway back to the hotel. And we stayed at a hotel that was on the other side of the airport. So it was about like maybe a 20-ish, 25-minute drive to get. It was pretty far away. It was a pretty, poor decision on us. Not great planning. But that was the only time we saw any of the sports stadiums. What's interesting, though, is they have them all together. So it's not like Detroit where like we used to have like our stuff like an hour outside the city for like a lot of it. With Philly, like it's all right there. Like it's in this weird industrial complex. But it's very interesting. Like you got the 76ers and the Flyers share a stadium, which I didn't know until now. And then you had the Eagles stadium, and then right next to it was the what's the other team? 76ers, Flyers, Eagles, and what am I thinking about? something basketball, football, hockey, and baseball. The Phillies. It's all right in there. And what's weird is like a lot of baseball stadiums are not necessarily always next to. Well, I guess in the Detroit case it is, but it was very interesting to see like just a different city layout, and it's very beautiful too because Philly has a lot of art and stuff, and so they like I think they designate like a certain percent of the city's income. It's like 1% or so per year, which is good because they dedicate that to art, and that way they always have like some sort of like it's a really nice city to go and see. I'm not someone that likes Philadelphia, and so like just going there was actually very it was nice to to see. But I just wanted to I don't want to feel the thing that I'm like out here like against Philly all the time.
It's just some of the sports teams, but hey, that's it's sports. It's not personal. It's
right.
just just rivalry.
Exactly.
Anyway, man. Let's get into it. We're just let's jump into the picks first thing this week, man, because I got to apologize. I got to apologize for last week. I don't know what happened, man. I think I got a little too bold take.
That's me every week.
And honestly, the one spot I should have been more bold in, I wasn't. So I just got to address the elephant in the room. Iowa, Maryland. I took Maryland in the points. Didn't take the money line. I took the points. Man, I was wrong. I was very wrong. I thought Maryland, they were hyped for that game. They had Iowa at home. I thought they were going to be a dog. I thought they were going to fight a little harder, and they gave up a 50-burger. It was a bad pick. And the same thing goes for Arkansas, man. I know Georgia's good. I just thought 18.5 points from what we saw from Arkansas this year, the Razorbacks, man, I liked what they had. I thought their offense could produce enough to stay within that 18.5 points, and I thought it was going to be kind of a lower scoring affair. Like I said, I think I had said thought it was going to be like a 20-14 kind of game, or like a 24-14 game. But I was nowhere close, man. Georgia is legit, and I never questioned that. Like I said, I just thought Arkansas would have done a little better. And then the NFL, we were both wrong about the Panthers and Rams, man. Panthers, I kind of look back on, and I kind of thought, I bought into too much of the hype of the Panthers. I had really, and I was the one I said, before the season started, I said the Panthers were going to be a good team. And I think even then they're outplaying my expectations. But I was a little off on that.
I'm just surprised the Rams lost.
The Rams-Cardinals was definitely a surprise. I liked the Rams to win. I knew it was going to be close, but it really wasn't a close game.
And I thought, and I swear to God, I made the bold prediction, like one of my big predictions for the year was that Matthew Stafford's winning a Super Bowl this year, and Kyler Murray may have something to say about that. And he might. It's one of the biggest unexpected things of the year.
I'm waiting for the Kingsbury collapse. It happens every year where the success is good and it normally isn't sustained. Now, he could prove me wrong. I'm saying so far they have beaten those narratives. Just a matter of can they maintain? We will see. And then we both had Bucks at least, which that was pretty obvious. But that game was a lot closer. I think the rain definitely prevented it from being more of a shootout than it was gonna be. All right, talk about your picks last week. You were pretty good, man. What you got? You got the Western Kentucky.
Did they end up covering that spread?
I believe
it was 11.5. It was 48-31. So not really. But
oh shit, no, you didn't. I thought you had covered that.
That was the issue, right? That I thought that Western Kentucky would have been able to not score more. I'd 31's pretty much where I kind of had them. I was expecting I wasn't expecting Michigan State to have so many points, I think is what it was. But and I'm not saying that Western Kentucky's defense is good by any means. I'm just, obviously a lot of that was based off of what we saw from Peyton Thorne. But I will say, and I wanted to mention this, I think I want it, in case I don't later in the episode, because I want to talk about this specifically about Michigan and about how Cade McNamara is not great. Not great. And again, I want to get into it a little later, hopefully. But in case I forget, so one thing that I'm talking about specifically that I heard was someone making the comparison was Graham Couch from the Lansing State Journal. He was talking about Bailey Zappi, the quarterback for Western Kentucky. Dude is a beast, and I'm not. Good. And I'm not just saying that, okay? I don't know if anyone watched this guy. He's great. He could be a starter on any Big Ten team. Any Big Ten team. Yeah. If Bailey Zappi's on the Spartans, starts the game. If he's on Michigan, he starts the game.
I've heard people talk. About the Big Ten, how like the Big Ten is pretty competitive, and we have several top 10 teams, right? Mm. We have four now, and Michigan State's on the precipice of joining. Yeah, and it's crazy because like I don't think any of the quarterbacks in the Big Ten are elite.
No, absolutely not. Not this year.
There's really not a lot in college football this year. Like, there's no quarterback that I look at and go, that guy is elite. Maybe, like, what's his name? Malik Willis is kind of, like, looking good. But nothing else. And so
I think Peyton
it's kind of funny. Good. So, yeah, I agree with you on that. It's like, it's weird how some of these smaller schools, they have these better, more fun quarterbacks.
Like look at Wisconsin. Are you not telling me that they would not take that guy? Bailey Zappi would take insane to them.
They'd take a satchel of apples and a pint of beer to get rid of Graham Mertz at this point.
Well, and I was going to say back to your quarterback point real quick. So Peyton Thorne looks good, and he's only a sophomore. And I say that with the biased hand, but I think we've seen a lot from him in his like development, and he's like Michigan State's got like this guy for another 1-2 years. So I think that will eventually have something to do with help him Michigan State's success. Exactly.
So back to the picks. Mm-hmm. You had Boston College upsetting Clemson. You took the money line. They did cover, but they did not. It was close though. It was not a bad pick. It was actually
it was 19-13. That was a closer game than like if like Clemson.
Spread was the easy.
They dropped out of the top 25 after this.
Yeah, Clemson's not good this year.
Perform
not a good team.
Well.
And then you also had Ole Miss, Alabama. Not even close. Just gonna move on from that entirely. All right, Brad. And then we move right into this week. Your first game that I see in the show notes here. Tell the people.
I'm going against Alabama again.
And this time it's even crazier. Tell them.
Yeah, it is wild. So we got week 6 right here. Number 1 Alabama at Texas A&M. Okay, Alabama is a 17.5 favorite. Let's take A&M. Let's take the Aggies. Let's take them. They are unranked. The Aggies are unranked. This is about to be the biggest upset in the last 10 years, okay? You heard it from me first. I got nothing to back that up on pure
This is just Brad trying to will something into existence.
Well, okay, so earlier in the podcast, like not this episode, but our previous episode, I had said, A, Alabama's vulnerable, all right? And 2,
they're not losing.
They're going to lose a game. They're going to lose one game, and it will be.
Yes, but it won't be to an unranked A&M team that can't play defense.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I mean, isn't it a shame that Alabama Georgia is not a crossover SEC game? That is a shame. I want to see that.
It will be a game. Yeah. It's called the SEC Championship.
So that one I got money line. That's my take.
Now on to some more reasonable picks.
Yeah, a little bit. So the biggest game of the week probably is Penn State Iowa. Both teams are 5-0. Iowa's number 3, Penn State's number 4.
This is basically like who has the best chance to make the college football playoff from the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is,
the crazy part is it's a crossover.
This matchup could happen again.
Oh, absolutely. And
the funny thing, like, here's the thing.
We don't really
if if Iowa doesn't win this game, they could still potentially make the college football playoff. It would be difficult, but they could, because if Iowa loses this game, they're almost guaranteed to go to the Big Ten championship. And if they win that game, let's say it's Penn State again, and they drop Penn State down so they match the record, I think because Iowa won the championship game would give them the edge and would give them the better chance of getting in. Although it's going to be hard for any team not in the SEC, to get in this year. But it is kind of funny if you could lose this game for either of these teams, as long as you make the championship game and win that, you probably can make the playoff.
And it's such a hard game. This game could go either way. But it's hard. I trust Iowa to win more. Penn State has the program success, right? So that's their credential to back that up. Mm-hmm. But I think Iowa wins this game. It's hard to spin it any other way for me.
I do agree with you, but I'll explain when I do my picks.
Yeah. I mean, the last game I got is number 11 Michigan State at Rutgers. I just wanted to throw this in here. I always find myself for some reason doing Michigan State, because I think for the first week I was like, I don't want to do Michigan State because it's a little too close to home. And then for the next 2 weeks I was like, I'll just throw them in there. So first off, I think this is a blowout. I think Michigan State just runs up the score on Rutgers. So I have I'm gonna say that the game's by three scores at least.
You think Michigan State blows Rutgers out?
I think that happens. Yeah, I think that they're 4.5 point favorites. I think they just run it up.
You think? See, I don't know, man. My thing with that is Rutgers' defense is so good, and Michigan State's. I think the funny thing, it's the two teams, their best side of the ball are going against each other, and their worst side of the ball is going against each other.
That's true.
So I guess I do think Michigan State probably has the better talent, and I think probably better coached. Although I love Shiano, but we'll have to see. Now my college picks, I have. So Penn State, Iowa. Again, we're both picking this game. Normally we don't, but this is the game of the week, and it's too good not to talk about. I'm taking Iowa. Tight end university, baby. Got to represent. They grow those boys on corn, and they are farm boys. They fucking no. But in all seriousness, Iowa is probably the second hardest place to go into in the Big Ten, behind the Horseshoe at OSU, and probably just ahead of Penn State. They just play a smothering type of football. It's aggressive. It's physical. That defense will not let you get ahead. And that mixed with the environment, I think Penn State isn't going to be able to handle the heat. I think they get popped. And I think Iowa also covers the 1.5 points. I also just hate James Franklin, and anytime I can choose to vote against him, I will. Michigan at Nebraska. Nebraska is a team. We saw this when they went against Michigan State. They got a good defense. And Michigan, this is another test of can Michigan, beat a suffocating defense? And they did so against Wisconsin. And the big thing with those kind of defenses is if you keep the offense off the field, which Michigan's defense did, you make it harder on the defense because that defense will wear down eventually. I think Michigan does the same thing at Nebraska, even though it's somewhat of a hard place to play. But I think it's easier than Fort Randall in Wisconsin. Give me Michigan in the points. I think they win this one handedly, and continue their journey to try and win the Big Ten for the first time in forever. By the way, you know what's funny? After this weekend, if Iowa wins, Michigan would then be would be in first place in the Big Ten East. Well, Michigan and Michigan State would be first place in the Big Ten East.
That is so crazy, because last year you would not have guessed that at all.
Now, granted, this is one of Penn State's hardest games on the schedule, and Michigan and Michigan State still have their hardest games yet to come, but first place is first place, especially for MSU. It's very impressive. And even Michigan, they are defying, I think, a lot of what people's expectations were. Final game, college game picking, Oklahoma at Texas. 3.5-point favorite. Oklahoma is. Give me Oklahoma. Texas is dog shit. I don't care if they're ranked number 2. I will never believe in Texas because they're just not good. And I think Oklahoma, I mean, they're the number 6 team in the nation. They're still fighting for a playoff spot. And, this is a pretty heated rivalry. And even though it's in Texas, I think Oklahoma goes in there and gets the job done and covers the 4 points.
Yeah, it's like hard because, like, it's so funny too. Like, I think about it, like, why the fuck are these two teams going in the, like, SEC? And it's because it's like, what are you, like, these are two dog shit teams. Like, I don't know how you watch Oklahoma and Texas and, like, yeah, these are SEC teams. They played against, like, Vanderbilt and, like we're talking, like, low grade SEC teams. I don't know how you survive. I don't know how you're a 5-win team, 6-win team. You're maybe 6-6 every year. And it's like how, I don't know, it eliminates I don't know if it'll, like, because the test, I think, for that, and this is a whole separate conversation, I think the test for them will be recruiting with these SEC schools. Because I think that, like, being in the SEC will up your, like, recruiting. But when Texas A&M went to the SEC, did we see... It was Texas A&M, right, that did that?
I believe so.
We didn't see, like... I mean, there's still Texas A&M. Like, I don't see anything changing, like, permanently. Like, we didn't see, like, a big change between, like, when they were, previous conference versus now, right? Like,
right.
Like, it's not like their recruiting, like, game just went up and skyrocketed. They just kind of the same team.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, but that's, like, again, a whole separate conversation. Let's move to the NFL.
NFL time. All right, first on the slate, we got the Thursday night game. This is a doozy of a Thursday night game, and I'm excited because I feel like our last couple Thursday night games, ever since the season opener, have been a little. So we got Rams at Seahawks.
Good game.
Who you got? Why you got them, Brad?
Rams, just Rams. I don't know that they lose 2 games in a row. I
don't think so either. I think Seattle is also just really inconsistent so far this season. And I don't trust them. I think the Rams bounce back and look like the world beaters that they were.
Exactly.
All right, I put a fun one on here. Jets at Falcons.
Okay,
2 of the basement
Falcons,
teams this year.
But same reason as before. I don't think the Jets win 2 games in a row. So
both these teams are 1-3. So
yeah.
I think regardless of who wins, it's good for the Lions' draft positioning because one team is now 1 win further away from the Lions. I'm going to be hopeful and say Jets here, purely for the fact that, one, I do think, all joking aside, I think Zach Wilson showed some decent flashes last week. This offense can be competent. The defense can create a few stops, and I think the Falcons just, I mean, I know both teams are bad, but I think Wilson is getting the speed of the game down, and I think as an athlete, he's way better than Matt Ryan. Obviously, obviously Matt Ryan's much more seasoned, but he's also older, and age starts to affect you. So I'm going to say Jets, and I'm also saying that because I think the Falcons will win more games down the road, and the Jets won't, so they need to beat the bad teams now, again, to help the Lions draft position.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
All right.
Like, I really, like, again, like, the Lions, I don't know, and we'll get into that in a few about the Lions, but, God.
Yeah. Browns at Chargers. Basic, going Chargers. That's fair, especially...
quick.
See, my thing with this game is I think a lot of people are probably on the Chargers because they looked good on Monday night and the Browns didn't look good against the Vikings. But that Vikings defense is a lot better than I think people realize.
Right.
Like, you got to remember, they were in a shootout with the Cardinals, who have, air raid offense, one of the best offensive units in the league. It's a pretty good defense that the Vikings have. So, like, I feel like the Browns, they didn't look great in that game, but like their defense is suffocating. That offense can produce when they want to, but I'm on the Herbert train, man. I love that dude. I mean, he's my fantasy football quarterback, which is a little bit of bias.
We are one and the same.
Yeah, but like he does look good, and I'm just like not. it'd be so nice if the Lions had him. And I'm not going to act like I was saying the Lions should take Justin Herbert in that draft where they had the number 3 pick, because I don't think anyone expected Herbert to be this. But it's like, what could have been,
Right.
But when all is said and done, I think I'm going to go Browns here. I hope I'm wrong, just because, I like the Browns and the Chargers. They're actually like 2 of my secondary teams that I root for, because rooting for the Lions is hell. I think I do hope the Chargers win a little bit more, because I just like the Chargers that much. But I think the Browns are a little bit better of a team, and I think they're going to be looking to bounce back. Sorry, not bounce back. They won that game. But I think they're going to be looking to kind of show that game was more of a fluke in how close it was and how poor they did on offense. All right, final game of the slate. I did 4 games this week because I really wanted to put the joke game of Jets at Falcons in there. Bills at Chiefs. This one is a hard one. I'm still kind of flipping a coin on this, but I think I got to go Bills.
My heart wants to say Bills. My brain wants to say Chiefs.
So what's your answer?
I gotta say Chiefs.
All right.
I gotta say Chiefs.
I'm saying Bills because Bills has the best defensive unit in the league. They have an offense that just has not been stopped. It's kind of mind-boggling that Pittsburgh beat this team.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they outthought themselves. The Bills lost that game more than the Steelers won it. And I think now, Josh Allen and that offense have really gotten into gear, and they're clicking and they're firing on all cylinders, and the defense is the same way. And I know they've beaten up on some bad teams. They beat the Dolphins without Tua, and they beat up on the Texans, but this team looks ready to make another deep playoff run, and the Chiefs just have a lot of issues. They have all the talent, but there's just kind of, I think teams are sort of figuring out Mahomes and the Andy Reid offense. They're figuring out, play 2 high safeties, don't let them beat you with the long ball, and make them check down, make them dink and dunk, and get down the field. And, the Chiefs have a decent defense, but I think that Bills offense is going to be too potent, and I think the Bills defense is able to shut down the Chiefs offense enough to allow the Bills to get the victory. But I do think it's going to be a shootout, and it's going to be a fun one, and I look forward to watching it. So,
Griff, that's some really good insight, really deep insight. You should be hired by ESPN. That's how good that insight was.
I do a better job than Booger McFarland.
Yeah, right. You do better job than anyone.
Or like Adam Schefter, who on Monday night said Herbert's a Hall of Famer. I like Adam Schefter. Nothing against the dude, but stick to the insider stuff. I don't need to hear Adam Schefter's sports analysis on Monday Night Football. And don't get me wrong, I hope Justin Herbert's a fucking Hall of Famer, but it's way too soon to be making that call.
Way too soon, dude. That sounds like
second season.
That sounds like some shit A-Rod would say.
I don't want. We'll talk about A-Rod in a bit. We're talking about play. We're going to talk about baseball today. So
somehow we fit that in.
We'll talk about kind of the stories of the last week of football. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll talk about the Lions, and we're gonna talk about Urban Meyer a little bit. We'll be back right after this break. All right, Brad, we're back. Let's talk about the Lions first, because this is, I think, a quick aside. Because I think this kind of got lost in the shuffle this week, but it kind of fits in to Urban Meyer a little bit, not in a big crazy way, but in a small way. So, Lions were at the Bears this weekend. Justin Fields starting. Matt Nagy decided, I don't want to kill my rookie quarterback, and actually got a game plan that works, and beat up the Lions pretty good. Now, here's the thing. Lions, I think there was about 4.5 minutes left in the game. Lions are losing 24-14. It's 4th and 2 or something.
Yeah.
And they're in the red zone. I think they're maybe the 22-yard line. They're close, right? They're in a field goal range, chip shot. And the Lions, again, they're down they're down 10 points, 2 scores, field goal and a touchdown to tie it.
Right.
Dan Campbell decides at that point to go forward on the 4th and short to try and get the touchdown then, and then try to get the field goal after getting the ball back from the defense. And a lot of people, I don't want to talk about the rest of the game. I don't care. This team is depleted of talent. We've just lost our Pro Bowl, our probably the best center in football. He's out for a couple weeks. Taylor Decker is still out. Panay Sewell, our first-round draft pick, who admittedly has had a rough game on Sunday, but still looks very good. You got to remember, he's 20. He's the youngest left tackle in football history.
Yeah.
And he's still learning.
Dude
and
is
the
a
fact that
fucking
he
stud,
he's had such a good first year, I expect there to be issues. I just want to see him get better at it, and it seems like each week he is. And each week he's facing different opponents, different tasks, different assignments at that position, who he needs to block and where. He's going to be fine. He's going to be a Pro Bowler next year. I've made that call earlier this season. I'm sticking by it. But anyway, now we have all these injuries, and even before that, we weren't a very good team.
No.
So, I don't care about how the team performs because I'm not holding that against Dan Campbell. The only thing I don't want to see are boneheaded mistakes from the coach. Last week against the Ravens, I didn't like that I didn't like that he wasn't aggressive because all of his branding had said he was aggressive. And earlier in the game, he had gone for it on a bunch of 4th and 1s, and then late in the game when he could have gone for the first down by throwing the ball and trying to drain clock, and by trying to get the first down, which would have allowed him to drain the clock, and then they kicked the game-winning field goal. Instead, he played it conservative. And then this week, he went for that 4th down, didn't get it, and then the game was over. And I see a lot of people were criticizing local media in Detroit because the same people got mad at him last week for not being aggressive, got mad at him this week for being too aggressive, and they're like, "Oh, you're being flip-floppy." But that's not the case, because these are two very different situations. The other one is you kill the clock to win the game. You drain the clock down to kick a game-winning field goal, and you don't let the other team get the ball back with one of the best kickers in the league with over a minute left, no timeouts. But again, in the NFL, it's so easy to move the ball downfield in a minute. We saw the Packers do it in 37 seconds against San Fran, who has a great defensive unit. So, but then this week, I have issue with the 4th down going for it because it ended the game. Straight up, it ended the game. You don't get it, you end the game. And even if you do get it, I know what the analytics say, it increases if you your win percentage goes up drastically if you get it there, whereas the field goal attempt doesn't. And I think the success percentage of getting it, you had a 2/3 chance. And by the way, it would have worked, by the way. They would have gotten that if Jared Goff could place a football on one of his open receivers. Amon-Ra St. Brown was wide open. Not wide open, but he had 5 feet of separation on his man. And if he had put the ball on his hands and not way outside of his reach, so all he could do is kind of barely touch the ball, it would have been a first down. And maybe we don't have this conversation. But even then, I don't like to go for it because even if you get the first down, you're going to just drain clock. You're killing the amount of time you have left because now, let's say you score. It was 4 minutes and 20 seconds left in the game at that point. Wait, the bot should tell me. 4 minutes and 19 seconds when they went for it on 4th down. And Detroit only had 2 timeouts left, mind you. So let's say they score. They probably have 3 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. You don't leave yourself with much time. You basically need a 3 and out, or they're going to be able to just basically kneel the game out if you do get the touchdown because you killed too much time. Whereas in that situation, if you kick the field goal, one, you not only don't risk ending the game with 4 minutes left, you can keep fighting to the end. You are extending the game and extending your chances to win. You are forcing the other team to play their defense and play hard for that remaining 4 minutes instead of just we didn't get it. These last 4 minutes mean nothing. You always extend the game and extend your chances of winning. And by going for it, you ruined that. And again, if you kick the field goal, you're down by a touchdown, but there's still, at that point, there would have been 4 minutes on the clock. You tell your defense, one stop, one score. You can go to your sideline as a coach and get those guys up saying, hey, you want to win the game, you can go out and do it right now. You need one stop defense and one score offense. And if you get the 3 and out there, you come back, let's say you use the 2 timeouts, you got a 2 minute, you got the 2 minute warning, and with 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock, no timeouts about. It's hard, and with how the offense has been playing, not great, but you could have done it.
Yeah,
and especially considering the fact that the Bears had a rookie quarterback who you were going to have to ask to go, and also David Montgomery was hurt, so they weren't going to be able to run it as effectively. So when you consider those external factors as well, you got to kick the field goal. I know what the analytics say, and I love analytics. I love using it. It's important. But there are certain times when you also have to think about some of those intangibles. And, again, you got to think about the clock. And I think in that situation, going for it, not getting it, you end the game. You have just depleted any chance of getting it. And if you do go for it, I think you take too much time off the clock to even get the ball back for the field goal, that it was pointless in the first place.
So there's a lot of thoughts that I have about this, and I was always wondering when you look at this Lions team, right? You're like, dude's a fucking rookie head coach. You don't know what the hell you're gonna get. I was a little skeptical at first too when the Lions got a rookie GM, rookie head coach. It would be the Lions to do that. And obviously, and I'm on this board all the time. You gotta do something to piss me off, really, for me not to like you. Obviously with Matt Patricia, it was just him as a person. He was a piece of shit. Didn't actually show up to press conferences. Didn't actually do his job as a person and who's a head coach of a national football team. If he's just bad at his job, bad at the day-to-day job, just bad at all of his job, every aspect of the job, he was bad at it. With Dan Campbell, I'm a little bit more lenient, because obviously first-year head coach, with Bob Quinn, it was just dude hiring his new friend, that's, that was a little bit more skepticism to me, but also it's also skeptical when you got a rookie head coach. But I'm gonna sum my thoughts into a couple points, okay? First off, I'm a big fan of Brad Holmes. I feel like his job, he's more acclimated to it. And again, we'll see.
He was the Rams draft. This is the man that helped get.
He was their draft guy.
This is the man that he's the reason the Rams have Aaron Donald.
Exactly.
He'll always have that to hang his hat on.
So with this guy, okay, Dan Campbell, whatever. This is first off. As Valenti said on 97.1, this is strike one, and I cannot be more. I cannot agree more. It's hard to look at this and be hindsight's 2020. I'm not a big fan of getting on the back of head coaches in weird mistakes, right? But this is bad for a couple of reasons. First off, I know you don't got a good team. And I realize that. Your team is bad. I am treating this Lions team with the same credibility as the 2008 team. Or whatever, the team that went 0-16. Yeah. This is the same team. I'm not a big fan of hyperbole here. I am saying that I view this team with the same credibility as I do the 0-16 Lions team. This team has zero chance to win any game. If they win a game, that will be a surprise. And I'm not even saying that as I'm not trying to exaggerate. I am literally saying that this is not an NFL team. This is a team that is bad. So this leads into my other point. I know you can't trust your defense, but if you have Matthew Stafford, that's a play you make, okay? Point A, you don't have Matthew Stafford. So you got Jared Goff. You don't make that play. On 4th and 1, whatever it is. And I saw someone on Twitter say something about this where he's like, great call, poor execution. And I'm like, it's because of the execution that you don't make the call. I could guarantee you that Goff's chances of making that on 4th and 1 based on whichever play you chose were very slim.
Well, I also don't like that they didn't try to utilize. You have DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams, and you needed a yard. And you're putting it in baby hands Goff.
And I know that would have taken more time off the clock or whatever you're trying to say. It's so hard though when like I was watching.
But the whole if you're worried about the clock, then you kick the field goal.
Teams all the time. Like last year, I was watching a game between the Saints and the Falcons, where the Falcons almost came back to beat the Saints, who were a good team at the time. Came back to beat the Saints. And after recovering an onside kick, you might remember this game. They had Drew Brees. It was like a whole thing. But Atlanta to win this game, and I know Matt Ryan's not great, but and it wasn't a 4th down situation, but and it wasn't a 4th and 1, I should say. But it was a 4th down situation where you didn't have a great quarterback. So what they do, they kicked the field goal, recovered an onside kick, and I'm not saying the Lions should have recovered an onside kick. That's a situation where you trust the defense.
But that's the thing. If you kicked the field goal, you had enough time to have your defense go out.
If there are points there, and you got Jared Goff, you take those points because there are no guarantees that you can get those again.
And I know I said the Lions' defense is awful, but towards the end of that game, they started to do okay. And again, Fields was probably going to have to throw the ball. You take your chances.
Exactly. You got a rookie QB on the other side. What the hell are you thinking?
You're gonna need your defense to get a stop regardless. My thing is give your defense more chances,
more of a chance
with more time on the clock, and then give your offense a chance with more time on the clock. Granted, the offense would have to go all the way down and score a touchdown, but I like that chance better. But
one thing I wanted to mention, I think this is hilarious, and this is not related to the Lions, but how funny is it that teams like, how do I say this? So like when the Lions play Green Bay, they're like, oh yeah, Aaron Rodgers is good again. Okay, why? Why are we saying that?
Well, I was gonna say, to be fair, I think a lot of people say like. The Lions are your make-right game. Like teams see the Lions on their schedule, and if they've hit a rough patch, they go, "This will get us right."
Right. Exactly.
And look what happened to the Bears; they looked good. The Packers have been looking great since they faced us. I just think it's
hilarious that
we are the tune-up game. We are the tune-up game.
I did not see much of the
We are
Lions
Northern Illinois.
I haven't seen the Lions play very much this season. I'm gonna admit, like I watched.
You should if you want to watch a fun game. You want to watch a fun game. You should watch them get smacked by the Vikings this weekend. They're in Minnesota, and that defense is gonna just get after baby hands.
And I'm not saying this to be mean or anything, but how funny is it that like Chicago, Matt Nagy, right, looks at Justin Fields play against the Lions, and he's like, yeah, that's our guy. And I'm not saying that Justin Field is bad. Like I'm not saying that at all. I think he's an infinitely better
it should have just been, hey, Matt, play this guy now, you dummy.
And that's the thing. So I'm not saying that Justin Fields is bad. He's a great talent. He's got great potential. It's just that first game they did not play with him, right? Like they didn't play. They didn't have a good game plan with him. But I just think it's so funny that he plays the Lions, who are again like. Probably worse than defenses he's seen at Ohio State. If he played a scrimmage, that's a better defense. And that's probably a little bit on the exaggeration side, but it's still like not great. So like I just think it's so hilarious that they're like, yeah, that's our guy after one game against the Lions. Sure. But God, it's so like, and again, I treat this team like the same credibility I had when I was 13 years old and I watched the Lions go 0-16. I turned to my dad and I said, the Lions are gonna they went 0-4. The only difference here is that they wouldn't have gone. They went 4-0 or they went 0-4 in the preseason this time. In 2008 they went undefeated in the preseason. And, obviously preseason games don't matter. But I turned to my dad and I was like, hey, the Lions went 4-0 in the preseason. And he's like, oh, yeah. And then go 0, being joking, go 0-16 in the regular season. And it was hilarious because, they ended up doing exactly that for the first time ever. And but I went to a game that year against Tampa Bay, and they were up at the half, and I turned to my grandma. I'm like, they're gonna blow the game, and they did blow the game. It was so easy to see. I was 13. I didn't know shit, and I could tell that they were gonna win the game. So again, it's the same. I don't see that them winning any games. I mean, they will win a game because it's the NFL, and that's just not. I don't think it's feasible to expect them to lose 17, but they'll win a game out of chance. But
so you have on the show notes who wins the game first, Jacksonville or the Lions, and I think here's the answer, right? So Jacksonville is going to their second home, London, on October 17th to play the Dolphins. That is a winnable game.
That is a winnable game, but here's the
thing. If here's my thought. If Jacksonville doesn't win that game against the Dolphins, the Lions will, because the Jaguars then face a gauntlet after that. They got Seahawks, they got Bills, they got Colts, and they got 49ers. The next winnable game for them is the Falcons, which is the end of November. That's Thanksgiving weekend.
So
the Lions, on the other hand, they have Vikings, they lose. Bengals, most likely lose. Rams, they're going to get smacked by their old daddy and Matt Stafford. Eagles, but they could beat the Eagles. Games. They could steal a game from the Eagles because the Eagles are kind of hit and miss, although I think they're better than us.
The schedule does not suit them.
But I think the Lions could beat the Steelers.
So, and I agree with that.
And I think they could beat the Bears. Because I do think the Bears are beatable. I genuinely think the Bears are beatable.
Thanksgiving, I think, is a winnable game.
That's all I want. I want them to win 2 games this year, and I want one of them to be the Thanksgiving game, so I at least can feel some joy on Thanksgiving in beating the Bears. But I think they could beat the Steelers or the Bears, and I think that both those games happen before Jacksonville faces the Falcons. So I think realistically, if the Jaguars don't beat the Dolphins, the Lions win the game first.
So the funny thing that I for some reason I would say Lions on this, and I know the strength of the schedule does not suit them. But
I think I would also say Lions. I don't think
lead into the Jacksonville story too, because we're talking about Urban Meyer. So there's this really good, again, and I support The Athletic with my full heart. They got a great team of writers there. Subscription's $7. It's actually really valuable. But anyway, so they had this story come out done by Lindsey Jones on Urban Meyer. Titled Jaguars Gambled on Urban Meyer. Now the winless team is paying the price. Now, obviously, and I want to provide some context to the story, obviously Jaguars' main reason to hiring Urban Meyer is because obviously, he'd been the head coach at Florida, right? That did Tebow. Bit, popularity really was. I mean, I know that it was a PR stunt, but they meant it in the best of intentions, because obviously they're trying to get this fan base excited, whether or not that's for the good or the bad, and obviously not great. And there was a scandal.
Not great, Bob. Not
great. So in The Athletic, I think my favorite thing, real quick, that they go over specifically, Jones does a great job of this, going over the missteps in Meyer's first 9 months at Jacksonville. A great story. You can Google it. It's really great at theathletic.com. Now, I want to go over these real quick, okay? First off, Chris Doyle. This is the first one. Chris Doyle, Jaguars Director of Sports Performance. Doyle left the University of Iowa in 2020 after multiple former players accused he was the former strength coach, of racist remarks and bullying. He was accused of. Not great. So then after that came out, and that wasn't, taken with great, whatever you call it. He resigned, obviously. So the NFL then fined Urban Meyer and the Jaguars in July after an investigation by the league determined that the team had violated rules that limit contact during organized team activities. Meyer was fined $100,000 and the team was fined $200,000. And the Jaguars also lose 2 offseason practices next year. And then Tim Tebow was signed to the from obviously
the biggest
tight end.
Most off-season hype of anything.
And it's so stupid. Obviously this was a publicity stunt, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So Tebow's hometown, a 33-year-old former college star would just thinking that he would somehow have an impact and some sort of moral presence. And obviously Tim Tebow, struggled to learn how to be a tight end as a 33-year-old former football and baseball player and was cut in August. First round of roster cuts. And then another one was where he somehow initiated a QB competition between Trevor Lawrence and Gardner Minshew, who was eventually released. Obviously
traded to Philly.
Right, exactly. But it's why have your franchise quarterback that would be the Lions, making Matthew Stafford compete for QB in year one. Just a dumbass decision.
Yeah.
According to a document obtained by The Athletic last month, the Jaguars started the season with one of the 3 lowest vaccination rates in the league, despite Meyer telling reporters that the team considered vaccination status when making roster decisions, and that prompted the NFLPA to open an investigation and the team to release a statement.
I remember that
no players were released because of their vaccination status.
That got him in trouble when he said that, and to find out there wasn't even it apparently was not a decision. Obviously you're not going to cut certain starters, but
right.
It's just a wreck. And now you have this whole thing with the whole controversy of last weekend.
Yeah.
And with last weekend, the issue is not Urban Meyer getting grinded on by some random woman that was not his wife in a bar. Because, it's funny. The memes are great. But, no one's actually saying he should lose his job over that. Because, Ray Lewis is still a prominent figure in football, and he allegedly murdered a man. Kareem Hunt is still in the league, and he kicked his girlfriend. Okay? Urban Meyer being kind of a sleazebag, which we all knew he was from his time at the 2 previous schools, is it's just not an issue. We need to stop acting like it is. The issue is he's losing this team, not flying back with the team Thursday night to Florida and staying in Ohio, and for that to be the reason, especially after a heartbreaking loss, really. I mean, they had every chance to win their first game. For him to cancel all team meetings on Monday because he didn't want to face any of his players because he was embarrassed, and going around and apologizing and kind of he's pussyfooting around the apology itself. It's just a mess, and it's a very easy way to lose the locker room. And some of the reports that are coming out of Jacksonville seems like he already has, and he's lost the respect of his players. And we saw what happened here when you piss off he's pissed off the players, and also has just made himself such an embarrassment that they aren't going to take him seriously. But we've seen what happens when you do that, and we saw it here in Detroit with Matt Patricia. Now he was too hard on his players and treated them like shit. But it's the same thing. It's the same result. The team doesn't play for you. They're not going to come out when you lose the locker room. I mean, you're done. You can't succeed as an NFL coach if you don't have your players respect. He doesn't right now.
Here's my prediction. And I'm full of these bold predictions. You know me. So here's my prediction. If this team, first off, I want to say this. There's no reason why he should be on this team right now. Why are we keeping him other than for pride? Okay. I think if this team
they don't want to pay him the $12 million.
Right. Okay. So if this team goes 0-6, I think he's fired. There's no reason for him to finish the season. They have every
excuse to. Again, the issue is if they fire him, they have to pay out his contract.
Okay, but I would. If I'm Jacksonville right now, I fire him right now. But I think if they go 0-6, they go no wins, 0-6, okay? He's gone. Goodbye. See
Yeah.
you later. Kick him to the curb.
No, I'm full agreement.
And I'm not saying that that's like I think that those are the metrics. I think he should be gone now. I'm not saying that those are the metrics for him being fired.
But after
I'm saying
this
that
has
I think
happened,
Jacksonville
and if the team
realizes
comes out
it's bad.
and looks even like after all this happens, and now if the team comes out and really looks like they've given up on him,
yeah. I mean, they could fire him next week.
Depending on how bad it gets this week, yeah. I think especially if they look like shit against the Dolphins and lose in London.
Right. Yeah.
I think they might just leave him.
Just leave him. Don't take him back. That would be pretty rough.
So, Brad, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about U of M, MSU. We're going to talk about Cincinnati. And we're going to talk about a little bit of playoffs and before we get out of here. So we will talk to you guys right after this. All right, Brad, let's talk about Michigan against Wisconsin. I think I need to get this out of the way right away. I think this is Harbaugh's biggest win. And I know that might sound a little bit like an exaggeration, but you have to realize there was a lot of narratives Harbaugh beat. It's the first time U of M has won at Camp Randall since 2001. Now, granted, that's not all on Harbaugh, but still an important milestone. He went on the road against a Big Ten team, specifically Wisconsin, and beat them on the road as an underdog. He's never beaten. He's never won as an underdog on the road, especially a conference team.
Michigan hadn't beaten Wisconsin in 20 years.
They've beaten Wisconsin before. They haven't won in Randall.
In Wisconsin. No, they haven't beaten them in Wisconsin.
But again, that's not that is not all attributed to Harbaugh because I think he's probably played there one other time in his tenure. The other times have been other coaches. So, and it is important for Michigan, and they won very convincingly. But it's important, and I'm not, I'm for as critical as I am of Michigan, you can't diminish this win because Wisconsin wasn't ranked. Playing in Camp Randall is difficult. That Wisconsin defense is tough. Yes, their offense is bad, but when you beat those narratives, you will go in and win as an underdog, albeit a small margin, but an underdog nonetheless. You've beaten those narratives, and it's important that you did that. Now, here's what I don't like. In your two games against other Big Ten teams, you're averaging less than 3 yards a carry. That's not going to work if your identity is running the football, especially against better teams. The other issue is I do not like what they're doing with McCarthy and McNamara. I don't like that McCarthy keeps coming in on these designed plays. I think McCarthy is a much better quarterback in terms of he's got the better ceiling. The thing is, McNamara is the safer option. He's not going to make mistakes. He has not thrown an interception all year, and he's safe with the ball, but he's not going to do anything extraordinary with it. He made a few good passes, but he also made several bad passes.
Does he not
McNamara
look
is
totally
the safe
afraid
option
to throw the ball?
Yeah, and I've noticed it seems like there's some balls. I'm like, why was there there was no zip on it? Like it seemed like you had a tight window. You need to zip the ball into that receiver's arms, and it seemed to like they just kind of limped off his arm.
Do you remember a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to relate this into Michigan State, okay? Do you remember a couple weeks ago when I had said to you that Michigan State hadn't played from behind, and that had worried me? Right. And then they did that against Nebraska. They had to, and I know that, again, we discussed this. Michigan State shouldn't have won that game. And it was a big problem. Like, we had seen them overcome it, though, in other areas. Like, that was a big win for them. Making that special teams return, like, even though that should not have been scripted to happen, it still happened. Like, the Spartans found their way, fought back in overtime, won the game. Like, we're past that now. Michigan has not played from behind, and that worries me. If I were a Michigan fan, and again, you can't win the game if you're rushing all the time. What happens when that stops? What happens when that doesn't happen?
And so far, they've run the ball decently, but I don't think it's as effectively as they need to. Again, you're two good defensive units in Rutgers and Wisconsin, and you didn't get over 3 yards a carry average, and that's not gonna.
I think the scariest thing for
It's not
Michigan
gonna work.
right now is what happens when, and I know the defense looks good this year. The defense looks good.
Mm-hmm.
But what's going to happen once an offense does something to figure you out? Like, what are you going to do? Because Ohio State is that sort of team. And I know that, again, like their team didn't look great against Oregon. A lot of that had to do with Ohio State's defense, not Ohio State's offense. But that's the issue. Like, Michigan has kind of held themselves right now. And I'm just thinking of this not necessarily as, like, someone who's being, like, I'm not trying to be like that sort of negative person. Like, it's great that we have, like, in Michigan State, like, they're great this year. Like, they've done what they had to do. But does it not worry you that Michigan has kind of been held up by a strong defense, a good running game, and strong starts? Like,
Yeah. I think that's my biggest concern is they've always been playing ahead.
right.
And
what are you gonna do?
I
when
want
you
to
have
know
to
what
pass
they're
the ball?
because like they still have had the luxury of running the ball every single game so far.
Right. Exactly.
And I don't know if that's going to be something they can do.
That is
forever.
not sustainable.
No, but I do think they showed this weekend they can pass the ball a little bit. They showed some flashes. I just worry about McNamara, and we will see. I'm actually more excited for future years for Michigan because I think McCarthy will be a better quarterback all around. But we're gonna have to see if that if that passing game can kick in when they need it to, when they're no longer able to start a game out with a double-digit lead.
Do you want to hear something, a really interesting stat? If you filter out garbage time, I actually don't know what that means. So I'm going to say that.
I think it means if it's like you're within a certain amount of time left in the game up by a certain score. Perfect. I don't know exactly what is used to calculate garbage time.
I see what you're saying. So if we filter out garbage time, Michigan's passing success rate on passing downs, which is like second and 7 or more and third and 5 or more, is just 22%.
Important throwing downs.
Is just 22%, which is 120th in FBS.
20th, yeah. I thought it was 112th. It was 120th. Yeah, it's bad. That's where I'm concerned is like when you need to start making second and 5 or third and 5, second and 6, second and 7 in big games against Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State. That's when I'm going to start to get worried because you need to prove you've not proven yet that you can do it. And might they be able to? Sure, but they've shown us nothing to indicate that they can. And until proven otherwise, I have to, again, 22% is 22%. So until they do something to prove us wrong, I have to assume they're going to struggle. So we will have to see. Man, you want to talk about Michigan State, Western Kentucky? Because that game was a lot scarier than it should have been. I thought Michigan State, they were out ahead. They looked like they were in charge, and
so
I don't know what happened.
Katie and I are like super boring, right? So God, we were in Philadelphia, and I had the game on actually because we didn't plan on doing anything Saturday night, so we were actually like in the hotel room. And I was so exhausted from the whole day that I watched the first half, and that was it. So yeah, like it did kind of get like a little scary, and I want to go back to Bailey Zappi, this dude, for Western Kentucky. Like, this guy is like a real deal. He's a good QB. And that was one of the things I was worried about going into the game. I discussed that mostly about how, like, again, Bailey Zappi's this dude that's got this big arm, and Michigan State's not a good defense. So it's kind of the perfect recipe that if Michigan State like didn't score enough points, like there was a little something to be worried about. But again, Michigan State almost hung 50 on them. I wasn't worried like for like, and again, I wasn't watching it like in real time, so I can't really say. But I don't think that like I would have been worried if Michigan State scored 48. Like, if I knew that Michigan State eventually would have 48 points in this game, I'm like, no way that Western Kentucky hangs 50 on Michigan State. So like I think that's my thing, right? Like every like sometimes you just have a threshold the other team can't get to. And that would be my threshold with Western Kentucky. I don't think that their talent, even if Bailey Zappi's a great like QB, I don't think the talent around him is that good. You know, and there's a lot of, and I've been listening to some Spartans podcasts and like Michigan State media and stuff like that. And I know that like it's easy to get really happy go lucky about this team. I mean, the same thing with Michigan, right? Like, it's so easy, and you should enjoy it. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I heard, again, Graham Couch from the Lansing State Journal, great guy. He was actually explaining this pretty well, right? Like, you know, should there be any concern for Michigan State? I mean, even Michigan, you could say, like, should there be any concern? And, yeah, there should be. I think with Michigan, there's a little more... you should be concerned.
But Michigan also has more expectations. So
that's
like,
the thing. With Michigan State...
It depends on what you mean by concern. Like, concern to win against good teams?
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues
like,
still with this team.
Michigan,
they're in, like, year 1.5 of a rebuild.
Exactly. Michigan State, you can enjoy this. And I think it's nice to sit back and, like, see where it goes. Because that's kind of where I am right now with this team, is just, like... Just watching it. Like, it's fun to watch. Like, East Lansing has not had a good team in several seasons, so it's just nice to sit back and watch. But like, again, like, if there are concerns, like, I don't know how long this can last. I don't know if Michigan State will have like a surprise loss, which is interesting. I don't know that Michigan State beats Michigan. There are a lot of people that are kind of getting on that bandwagon, and I'm not there yet. I think that because again, a team that's going to beat Michigan is going to be able to stop their run game. Michigan State is not that team, though their run defense is a lot better than their pass defense. But again, like, it seems that McNamara would have no issue with a bad defense. He hasn't had like too big of a problem so far. So I don't think that like Michigan State's like defense is on the level to compete with Michigan. So I think that's my concern with that. Like, I wouldn't go as far to say that Michigan State will easily beat Michigan. Like, I can't say that. Though a lot of people who are, again, in Michigan State media are very quick to kind of predict a Michigan State victory, though I'd like to see that. That's not something that I can necessarily fathom, which is weird. Like, because earlier this season, I was on the definite yes. But the way Michigan's played is very concerning. In like, as like someone who likes Michigan State. But again, like, I'm not expecting Michigan State to win. I wasn't expecting Michigan to win more than 6 games. So, you know, if Michigan loses more than like 3 now, like, now I'm a little concerned. But I think that they can easily win 9. Like, I think that's feasible for them. Their expectations are there now. But again, if Michigan State loses to Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan, that's a good season. That's a great season. I think that's where the expectations are now.
Yeah, Michigan State's got to win 9 games. Michigan's
got to win like 11 at this point. Like, if you
Michigan, you're expected to. I think now the hype is win it all. Well, at least win the Big Ten.
And I think JJ McCarthy.
And it's funny because this is probably the hardest year to win the Big Ten title because you're probably going against Iowa.
Exactly. I would at least like to see Michigan get in that game. But
I would too.
And I don't
just let
understand,
them get to Indy for fuck's sake.
I don't
Give
understand
him a
how
chance.
Jim Harbaugh hasn't had like a QB guy yet. Like, is he like he's had like potential on his team? Is he just bad at like? I don't know, like, the ins and outs of Michigan.
Moving on. No, he's just not good. Like, he was supposed to be the QB whisperer, but he just hasn't
so
been.
weird.
So, but we should probably move on, Brad. Is there anything else you want to say about these our two lovely schools?
No,
but to wrap up, yeah, like, Michigan just isn't. They're just not. Like, they haven't had the QB, and Harbaugh hasn't been able to get that guy. Like, what was his name that they took from Ole Miss that came in?
Shea Patterson, or was it
Shea Patterson, the Shavier? He was awful. Harbaugh has never gotten his guy, but he keeps thinking he is. That's why I don't trust him for QB analysis. However, I will say, like, I do think JJ McCarthy will be good, and I'm excited to see what he has to offer in the coming years. So
there's one college football question I had for you. Okay, if Cincinnati goes undefeated, and all they have right now is conference, and remember, what was it, a couple of years ago that Cincinnati got fucked on the on the college football playoff because, again, their strength of schedule isn't that great. Okay, and again, they're ranked 5, so they'll be ranked higher. But if Cincinnati goes undefeated, they play all conference games. They haven't played a conference game yet. They're the the American Athletic Conference, the AAC, right? And they'll be in the Big 12 soon. But so they play Temple, UCF, Navy, Tulane, Tulsa, USF, 24 SMU. That's a big game, and ECU. If they go undefeated, do they get into the college football playoff?
If there's 4 Power 5 teams that are undefeated, no.
So okay,
if it's Georgia and Alabama have to go against each other, and both of those teams are getting in.
I think Georgia and Alabama get in.
They're both in, even though one of those teams has to have a loss because of the championship game. But they're still probably 1 and 2. Or at least 1 and 3, so they don't go against each other until the final if they make it.
Because what I'm thinking,
and then I think you need a lot of things. Really, what they need, like I think it could be 3 SEC teams this year, and then a Big Ten team. Because I don't think Oklahoma is that good. But I could see a 1-loss Oklahoma team beating out Cincinnati. I think it would be
it's like how far do you
Georgia,
go?
I could see Georgia. It would be Georgia, Bama, a 1-loss Oklahoma team, or another 1-loss SEC team potentially, and it will be the Big Ten champion. Because, whether that's Iowa, OSU, Penn State, Michigan, whoever.
I mean,
it'll be the Big Ten champion.
What do you do if you're Cincinnati? You schedule and again, like there's intent in scheduling. Like you can tell when some of these teams are just not even trying. But like again, you're Cincinnati. Okay, you want some sort of credibility. You schedule Indiana, Big Ten school, who just actually had a monster season, even if they're not, and it kind of sucks for Indiana, right? Like they were just like, wow, we're finally back, and that's not what it turns out to be. But you schedule Notre Dame, who's a great school, okay? Strength of schedule goes way up, and you got a ranked SMU team that you play, potentially ranked. Now, What more do you have to do if you're Cincinnati?
Playing a Power 5 conference.
I'm not
trying to be a dick towards them. It's just that is...
And they're going to. It's just so crazy to me. And again,
they
like,
need
a
lot of things to go their way, I think, for the committee to give them a shot. So.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. 'Cause sometimes it sucks, like that, like, you know, we don't have like it's so arbitrary between like choosing who gets in and who doesn't.
Yeah, and it is. That's why I just make it the 4 power conferences.
Right, exactly. Like, I hate that they're joining the Big 12 because I'm like, I want the Big 12 to be gone. Like, I just don't want it anymore.
They should go to, like, the Big 10.
Right, exactly.
They'd actually fit in well at the Big 10.
I mean, if the Big 10 merges and the Big 12 merges, I think that actually might be, I don't know. But.
Yeah. So, let's do a quick fantasy recap, Brad. I got very lucky this week.
I fucking lost.
Yeah, you got blown out, so we're just gonna go right past you. No, you had injuries. You had Gronkowski was out and Giovanni Bernard was out. By the way, do you still have Kenyon Drake?
No, he got picked up by someone else.
No, you should try to probably get a waiver wire running back if possible.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean Bernard might be
Ingram
okay.
Is not the guy.
No, but neither you have him and Latavius Murray and Giovanni Bernard. It's not exactly a stout roster.
No.
But that's okay. You'll bounce back. When Gronk gets back, you'll be okay. I think and you just had a down week. The other guy looked like he had a great week. So
yeah.
I got lucky. Had a poor week from a lot of my team. DJ Moore still carrying me very much. But I had I won. So I was going into the Monday night game. I had Mike Williams and Justin Herbert left, and I was down 8. And Mike Williams only got me 2.1 points. I mean, listen to these scores, man. Like 13 points from Kamara, 8.9 from Swift, 2.1 from Williams, only 8 from George Kittle, only 7.7 from Cortland Sutton. Like, it was a bad day. I had 32 points from DJ Moore. He saved me. But anyway, I was going into that game. I was down 8. Williams only scored 2.1. And I had also had Justin Herbert, but he had Derek Carr. Herbert scored me 21.3 points, and I remember towards the end of the game, Austin Eckler ran a touchdown in, and it was like they were up by 2 scores. I'm like, well, fuck, they're not going to throw the ball anymore. I was only winning by like half a point, and Carr was going to come back on the field and get a bunch of garbage time like yards and take the lead on me. He took the lead. The guy I was going against was up by like a tenth of a point. Derek Carr throws an interception, loses 2 points. I win 111.88 to 110.44. I won by 1.44 points. It was, I'm 2-2.
I can't believe you.
A win's a win. A win's a win. I was very, very lucky. So I felt pretty good about it. So, hey, we're on to next week, and I hope my team bounces back a little bit better, and I think they will. Kamara's been a little if here and there, but Swift will be fine. He had one down week. And Mike Williams, it was a bad week. I think he's still a wide receiver too and stays in my lineup. So, Brad, let's take one last little break here, and then we're going to talk about the MLB playoffs, which have just gotten underway. Yankees, Red Sox last night. Actually, Dodgers, Cardinals are playing right now. It's 1-1 in the top of the 5th. So we'll come back and we'll talk about that right after this. All right, Brad, it's baseball time. I know you've missed it dearly. It is your favorite thing. You want to talk about the wild card situation before we even got to the wild card, that last day for the last 2 AL wild card slots?
So, yeah, I was pretty disappointed. So I don't know.
You wanted the chaos.
I did. There was so much chaos that could have been. There was so much potential for chaos. So basically, we had a situation where in the last day of the MLB schedule, the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees had the both wild card spots. Both teams were tied and had 91 wins, both 8 games back of the Rays in the AL East. But then. By the way, and I just want to put this out there, if you're wondering how 3 teams in the AL East had 90 wins, actually it was 4, because the Blue Jays had 90 wins. If you're wondering how, every single team had I think it was like an insane win percentage against the NL East. It was the NL East being so bad that allowed the AL East, because that was and I think that kind of goes into the uniformity in scheduling. When you talk about that sort of like unfair schedule, like every team in the AL East played the NL East. That was it's how the NFC will play like certain divisions in the AFC, etc. But it works the same way. The AL East played the NL East. The NL East played the AL East. It was just how it worked. And because the NL East was so bad, that allowed the AL East to be so quote unquote good. So it was crazy because the Yankees and the Red Sox had 91 wins, the Mariners somehow, and the Blue Jays had 90 wins. So theoretically, if the Blue Jays and the Mariners were to win on the last day and the Red Sox and the Yankees were to lose, it would have been a 4-way tie. That would have been a 4-way tie, and we would essentially have created for ourselves another playoff round.
So what would it would have been?
It would have been so basically what would happen is they would organize the teams and give them like presets like A, B, C, D. Based and
it would basically be 2 game 163s.
It would be based on how like their head-to-head win percentage, right? And I think because the Boston Red Sox had like the best head-to-head percentage, Blue Jays were 2, Yankees were 3, Mariners were 4. So both the Red Sox and the Blue Jays would have had home field advantage, and the Yankees would either choose to play in Toronto or in Boston, and which is actually and the Mariners would just play the other team. So they would basically get to pick. Like they don't have a gray system, but. So it was actually kind of interesting, everything that was happening, and there were also like 3-way tie scenarios, 2-way tie scenarios, for either the second wild card or whatever. But it was just like, it sucked because I knew Boston was gonna win. Like that was kind of a guarantee because I think they were playing Chris Sale, so like. He's starting, so that's kind of a guarantee. Plus, they're playing the Nationals, who just sold their whole team. So that was pretty much a given. So I figured that the best case scenario, if there was going to be anything, would be if there was a tie for the second wild card spot, because I think the Yankees almost lost. Or did they? But the Blue Jays won like 11-1 against the Orioles, and then the Mariners lost the Angels. So it was just kind of upsetting that like it didn't happen, because I was really hoping it would happen. But it kind of like almost makes you think too, because if the Blue Jays would have won, and in order for the Blue Jays to like enter the playoffs, they would have had to beat the Orioles in the last game of the season. Then they would have had to beat either the Yankees or the Mariners or whoever it was. And then they would do all that work just to get into a 1-game wild card playoff. And then if they were to win that, they would have gone on to play the Rays.
Yep.
Which is all just like a lot of work for one game.
Get the chaos, but
anyway,
hey,
it was kind of crazy, like, because I actually enjoy like baseball, like predictor, like tie breaks like that, rather than like any other sport. So it was very like I was hoping for it, and it just didn't happen. So but Dodgers are the favorites to win the World Series. I see you have noted that in there, even though they are a wild card team. Remember, the Giants actually were projected to win 75 games and ended up winning like 107. So, big surprise. So, you want to make some predictions real quick?
Yeah, let's do that real quick.
So, I want to start with Tampa Bay, Boston.
Tampa Bay, Boston, give me... Man, that's hard. I'm going to say give me the Sox. I think I don't know, man. I just like that team. I think their offense is potent. I think the pitching, as long as the pitching holds up, they're going to be fine. As good as Tampa is, give me the Sox.
So Boston. I think will win, and only because of their starting pitching. I thought that Tampa Bay Tampa Bay made better like moves of the decision, getting Nelson Cruz and doing that. But like it just seems like it's almost like a toss up in this one, whereas like the next one, Houston, Chicago. Obviously, Houston. It's hard not to pick Houston.
Chicago's fine, but I just don't.
The AL Central was also not great, so like
worst division in
Chicago
in
winning
or
the
baseball.
AL Central is not indicative of anything. That's like saying
of playoff success.
Right, exactly.
That's also,
like
fuck Tony
you
La
have a
Russa.
degree from like Northern Michigan University. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I just hate Tony La Russa.
Yeah, so do I. Absolutely. So do I. Braves, Brewers. We're going to go Brewers because Brewers are good and the Braves are bad.
Okay, your bias aside, I just don't. The Braves, if the Braves had their, actual full roster and their star players, I'd probably pick Braves here, but you don't have Acuna.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they still won the division without them, but that doesn't mean anything.
That division fell apart quickly and almost became as bad as the AL Central with how, the Phillies, the Nationals sold off half their team.
Mets had a worse, the same record, I think, as the Tigers did.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
It was a bad time for that division.
Not great.
Give me the Brewers to advance.
I think that the Giants beat any team they play.
I agree, especially if it's St. Louis. I think LA would actually give them a little bit more of a run, but I think they would beat St. Louis handedly. I do think LA wins tonight. They're playing currently. It's still 1-1 in the bottom of the fifth.
Because I think that if the Cardinals can
Scherzer has already been pulled in this game.
I think if the Cardinals can get like past the seventh inning with a tie, I think that's a win for them. Because I think that if you can beat the Dodgers bullpen, you can win. Because you're not going to beat Scherzer. Your pitching's got to get you to the seventh inning or eighth inning and get Scherzer out of the game. Because that's the key, right? Like just hold them until then and just hold on.
I was going to say Scherzer's already out.
Is he really?
They pulled him at the top of the fifth,
and that's what's going to happen. You're going to see that.
When
like,
you
they can't risk anything in a
when
one
you're
game.
in a one-game playoff. I mean, even last night, like who's
Garrett
the Boston
Cole was
Red
pulled
Sox?
after
Not
second
Cole.
inning.
He was pulled. Well, but look, he was pulled in the third.
He was ass. He didn't show
but
up.
But even look at the Red Sox pitcher. He got pulled in the bottom of the sixth.
Yeah.
Because you just
traffic on the base paths.
sign, as soon as you see a sign of something happening, you got
the only pitcher that I would trust in a situation where you're letting a lot of people run on the bases is Jacob deGrom, and I don't mean that to be biased,
but
or
Jacob,
whatever, but Jacob DeGrom's
no,
a big guy.
He's
Jacob
DeGrom.
He's going to get you through that situation. I don't think there's a single pitcher in the league right now that I would give those reins to.
Yep. By the way, I really hate TBS is doing the broadcast for this wild card game. They do not have a miles per hour gun
do they really?
On their display.
Really?
They don't tell you the speed of the pitches. I mean, the overlay tells you of like the strike zone, but I like when it's on the actual scoreboard.
The only thing I like.
Do they have the live strike zone? I haven't even wait. It's one of those things I wasn't even
I like about ESPN's broadcasts is that they show you the pitch sequence.
Yeah,
that's the only thing
nice.
Because that is nice. No,
their graphic. ESPN's always been good with the graphics.
If you're in a seven pitch count or a 5 pitch count, like knowing the sequence of pitches, I feel like sometimes is very helpful.
Yeah.
Because it's
yeah.
TBS
doesn't even have the strike zone overlay, and so you don't see the speed of the pitch on that. So you don't know.
What is this?
Yeah,
what are we doing?
If you don't have the strike zone overlay, whatever. I don't need that. But I like to know what the speed of these pitches are in some way. That's really weird. I mean,
no, it is because
and it's funny because I like their layout because I like the small one. I hated the way Bally Sports is.
Oh, absolutely! It's like a fucking whole thing. It's the whole thing. Everything. It's
I love
let's take the whole
small
screen.
box in the upper left corner for baseball.
That's what made the contrast so bad between when Sinclair switched over the branding from Fox Sports to Bally Sports, because it went from being this small minimalistic thing to being the whole screen.
Yeah. No, I like baseball. I've always liked the small scoreboard up in the corner. Hockey's the same way. Football, I like it at the bottom, which they all do at the bottom now.
You know who has a good overlay is CBS with football.
Yeah, but I like Fox's too.
I mean, Fox's is fine, but I really like.
I used to like the old one more.
Yeah,
because it reminds me a lot of what CBS's is now, where it was kind of like a longer bar at the bottom. Now Fox's is like a box, like a square box at the bottom. I mean, they're all fine.
Here's a one.
We've gotten a little off topic.
I know. But here's one big hot take on ESPN, real quick. I hate that ESPN, everything, their screen during games is too busy. Here's what I'm gonna say, real quick. They need to get rid of the ticker at the bottom of the screen for games. Maybe do it intermittently.
That's one of ESPN staples is the ticker.
And that's the thing. And that's why they're never going to do it. They would never do it. Mm-hmm. But, God, it is so frustrating
because they used to
watch.
be you could tune into ESPN and see the score of anything, but that just doesn't happen anymore.
Well, because now, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to check my phone. Sometimes it's nice to have, maybe during commercial or intermittently throughout the game. Just intermittently,
in NFL
every
broadcasts.
So often. But I don't need it there every single second of the day.
Yeah,
and it sucks too bad because the college football scoreboard is huge. It's massive, and so mixed with that with the ticker, it just looks it's what are we doing? This isn't CNN. Like, everything doesn't need to be on the screen at the same time. So, yeah, I'm over
agree.
it. But I could go on a whole rant. I could do like 5 different episodes about how broadcasting sucks on
Baseball
major TV
broadcasting
networks.
is dog poop.
Oh my god. Hey,
Well,
Rod,
Brett,
such an idiot.
We'll check in next week. We'll see where we're at in the playoff races with baseball and obviously with football. I think there's a big week this week with the NFL and in college. We got that Iowa Penn State game, man. That's huge playoff implications and huge Big Ten implications, and I think it's going to be an interesting week. And can't wait to be back here next week and talk about it with you and go over it, and hopefully my picks aren't dog shit like they were last week. But yeah, man, we'll have to see. Anything else you want to say to the people before I say goodbye?
Go Aggies.
Go
Aggies.
Go Aggies, baby. Fuck Bama. All right. Hey, you know what? I hope, even though it's going to really hurt me in the pick points, because this will get you 6.5 points, I hope you're right. I'd love to see Bama go down. Like seeing the underdog win.
Yeah.
So I'm rooting for you. Go Aggies. All right, everyone. We'll see you next week. Have a good one. Make smart, safe bets. Hopefully your fantasy teams win. And make your free throws.